everybody, it's Vanessa, the Crafty Gemini, and welcome to episode 2 of Fiber Friday. So I see a bunch of you are tuning in already. Hi, everybody. We'll say hi to our friends in a second. But for those of you that may be tuning in new, Fiber Friday is a new live series that I'm hosting here on the Crafty Gemini YouTube channel and Crafty Gemini Facebook page, where the first Friday of every month at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I join y'all here to talk all things fiber. And by fiber, I mean fuzzy, yarny goodness. So, talking knitting, crochet, spinning, what else? Any new purchases, new books having to do with anything yarn related. We're good? All right, so if you can see me and hear me, just let me know really quick in the chat if you're tuning in that everything is well. Hi, Miss Bernadine, tuning in from New Orleans. We got Becky. Hey, she says, I want all those pretty yarns on the screensaver. The little picture image that appears before I go live. It's like every single solid color of yarn. I know, it's like a beautiful gradient of color. That's how I feel about fabric and yarn, huh? All right. Hi, Esther, tuning in from Chicago. And she says, from a foggy, cold, and damp California. Girl, it is foggy, cold, and damp here in north central Florida. I'm coming to y'all from my home sewing studio. We live just north of Gainesville, Florida. It has been chilly all day. What would you say, in the low 50s? And rainy and drizzly and yeah, no good, no fun. I feel bad for people who live in environments that are like that more than just a couple days a year like we have to deal with it here. All right. Hey, Jamie, tuning in from Texas. All right, good. We got a bunch of people tuned in. Rose from Maryland. Hi, Miss Rose. Okay, great. Hi, Maite, tuning in from South Florida. All right, so we're going to get started because I have a little bit long of a list of stuff to get through. But definitely stay tuned because I want to get your feedback at the end of the live tonight. I'm going to pick 2 winners. We'll pick one from Facebook and one from YouTube, and we're going to put together some yarny goodies to give away, okay? So if you're tuning in, stay for the whole thing so you can find out more about what's coming up next and what I've been up to. So first on my list is a knitting hat pattern that we are almost done with. A lot of you have been messaging me saying, like when I post pictures of my son on Facebook, he's been knitting hats for his best friend, the best friend's brother, the best friend's mom. And so he recently took on a couple orders from friends that we know, and he's been knitting hats. Now, a lot of you have written me to say, I wish I could knit a hat. Okay, a lot of you are maybe crocheters who want to get into knitting, or maybe have tried to dabble in knitting and it just doesn't click. So you keep letting it go, right? Years and years and years. And that used to happen to me. I felt like it was so slow, it never really clicked. And then once I got hooked, it was like, now I prefer knitting more than crochet. And I've been crocheting since I was 9. So hi Kathleen, she says, ooh, a yarny night. Yes, I'm excited that you're here. Great. So I wanted to put together, well, we've been working on this for a while now, a hat pattern. It's called the Loma worsted hat, and it obviously uses worsted yarn, but we are going to put together a knit along later this year. We're going to aim for December. And I'm going to put together a video course and bundle up the supplies and everything for y'all. So if you think that you might be interested in something like that, where we get together live on Zoom, plus you have pre-recorded and edited video lessons, the pattern, the materials, the needle, and everything, I would love to hold your hand as I walk you through my hat pattern. So we can go ahead and give them the over-the-shoulder shot and pop me into the bubble. So I can start showing you a couple of samples, kind of what we're working on, because obviously it's not done yet, but the pattern's been tested by a dozen testers already. We made a couple of tweaks to it, and I'm super excited because it is, I would say, a fabulous beginner project. Oftentimes when you start either knitting or crocheting, the first project, I don't know why they always have you do is like a scarf. It is so boring because you're literally doing the same thing and it's just like a long, long strip. And I find especially teaching kids that they kind of lose the steam and they're just like, this is so boring. When am I going to see the finished thing, right? Whereas with a hat, you can start to see it build, 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 and you don't need that much yarn at all. So this is a sample of the hat. It's designed to fit snug, so it has negative ease so that it can fit, you know, tighter on your head. So the finished circumference measurements are smaller than the size of the head that we're making it for. But the pattern does include 3 different sizes. And so you can see that the ribbing here, when it's folded up, this is the small size, the smallest size for kids. And then I was working on just a solid one here. But you can see it almost looks like the whole thing is in stockinette, but this is the ribbing here. And it's cool because it's like reversible. So anyways, this is the pattern. Obviously we're not done, but this is the project that I'm going to launch as my first knit along for this year to gather in some beginners. And if you're not a beginner, it's like a potato chip project where you just like, before you know it, you're like done, another hat to gift, right? For the holiday season, especially coming up on colder months. So if that's something that you would be interested in, definitely let me know in the chat below so we can, you know, start getting everything ready. So hopefully by the time we have our third Fiber Friday, which is going to be the first Friday in December, we'll have more details. But the best way to stay in touch and in the loop of when we're going to release this, when kits will be available, the course and all that, is to sign up for our Fiber Crafts email list. If you're just interested in fiber stuff, yarn, this kind of a knit along that I'm going to be putting together, definitely use the link that's in the description box below this video on YouTube. We can put it in the chat box as well on if you're watching us on Facebook, and that way when I send out the email with the info, you won't miss it, okay? All right, so that is that. That's what's in the works for that. Oh, awesome. I love to see it. Hey, Shanika, she says, yes, I want to learn. Girl, you know I would love to teach you. Clovis says yes. Eunice says yes. She loves to knit hats for charity, friends, and family. I know. And from one ball of yarn, depending on how much yardage you have in there, you will probably be able to make 2 of those hats, okay? Next, let's move on to my spinning. Haha. And I almost cast on a project this week and I didn't want to. I held off because I wanted to show y'all the yarn before I did. I did roll it up though. So let's talk a little bit about, well, y'all know I'm currently obsessed with the spinning. Okay, so this is all hand spun. Let me make sure that you can see. Oh yeah, woo, that looks good. Okay, so this is all hand spun and I'm gonna tell you the story of each of these in a second, okay? This we'll set aside. Let's start with this gray one. So this gray, doesn't that look great? I am obsessed with the way that this looks. Look at that. There's pinks, there's purple, there's some coral in there. And so I'll explain to you, this is obviously a 2-ply and I hand spun the pink, right? The gradient one that you see here, all mixed in. And the gray, this is like my current experiment stuff, was this in gray. So this is not, I didn't spin it, right? This is by Cascade Yarns, and it's their Magnum yarn. It is 100% Peruvian Highland wool. And so my local yarn shop here in Gainesville, Florida, called Yarn Works, is closing down. They're going out of business. She's been open for like 37 years and she's finally retiring. And so I went by the shop, and when I saw this in a corner bin, I thought, this puffy, super fluffy single ply would be so fun to ply with something else, right? And so I picked up a bunch of these in different colors. But the gray one, I took the gray version of this and then plied it with my skinnier thin hand spun, and I am loving the way that this looks. So I wound it up into a ball already because I'll show you. I am participating or trying to. I tried to do this in the spring too, but I haven't finished that project. This is, I think, a smaller one, a little bit easier than what I had tackled in the spring, but I'm participating in Knit Collage's fall knit along. And if you're not familiar with Knit Collage, look it up. Amazing yarns. They're hand spun by ladies in India. They use all kinds of different things in there. Like this is, so these little balls that you see here is a little mini skein sampler bundle or something like that. I think the color was lilac. And I purchased this from Knit Collage, this little bundle. They all came in little hanks and then I wound them up into the balls. So you can see that this is actually, they use also like repurposed like sari silks and fabric chunks, and you can see that that's what this one is. Some of these have little floral embellishments throughout. We have like stellina in here. It's really funky, thick, thin, it's a mix, it's really fun. And so when I saw these colors, I thought, oh my gosh, this would look great with my hand spun that I plied with that other store-bought yarn, right? What do y'all think about these colors? I'm like loving it. I hope that this is enough. If not, they didn't have any more gray at the shop because, you know, everything's clearance. So I may have to buy another one of these because I still do have more of the pink that I could potentially ply another batch of this to make it. But I'm making the, let me think of the name. It's called, I think it's like Get Your Groove On Poncho or something like that. But I'm making that project. They're knit alongs. They have like 4 or 5 patterns and you get access to all the patterns, but you basically pick one to make. And then she has step-by-step video lessons as well. They do like Zoom chats and they have a Facebook group too. So I did it in the spring. I started the project. I'm not quite done with it. It's like a cardigan. But anyways, I still wanted to get in on it again. The same way that I host these types of things for my audience and for my work, I also like to participate in them for my fun. Okay, so let's see. Um, oh, awesome. Eunice says that is so cool looking. I think so. It's super, super fun. So I made this one, and then I'm going to combine it with these. And then I had more. Can you tell that there's a yarn in common here? The pink, the purple, the coral, all that is the same yarn that I applied here because I had left over on the bobbin. And so, I mean, this one is just, come on. This is totally hand spun. I totally made this. This is a collaboration between my 10-year-old daughter, Allie, and myself. Oh, it looks like peppermint candy with little bits of gold stellina in there. I'm obsessed with this. So here's what happened with this. The white that you see here, the cream and the little bits of glittery stellina in here, my daughter actually designed it. She used my blending board and she blended bits of different neutrals that I had in my stash. This is one of the little Rolex that she made. And she put stellina in there and she was getting like little darker bits and orangey bits and brushing them on. And then we would roll them off. And then I would take those Rolex and that is what I spun to create that neutral that you see in the yarn here, that single ply. And then I applied it with the leftover pink from this. Oh my gosh. Isn't that cool? So although she knows how to crochet, doesn't like it, knows how to knit, doesn't like it, she's really liking designing the yarn and trying the different things. So I told her, you know, create whatever you want and I'm going to turn it into yarn. Let's see how it looks. And I think it just goes so, so well. Oh, love it. So yes, Designs by Christina, or Christina yourself, is asking, do you have a spinning wheel? I do. I have a Shacked Ladybug spinning wheel, and I got it this summer, just a couple months back, but I'm obsessed. And it's so easy to use. I love it. Love, love, love it. But, oh my gosh. So I'm thinking this can go for that poncho. So I may not need to make another one of these because I think this one will give me a good bit of yardage that I can put into that. Yeah, Becky says, I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Lindy. She says, I love them all. I'm so, so, so excited. And as you can see, the same way when I work with fabric stuff, if you're one of my sewers or quilters out there, you know that I love a pop of color. So if I can make yarn and add pops of color, why not, right? Love, love, love. Okay, so that's that. And I saved one of these so that I can show y'all the little, and then I just spin, spin, spin. And it's cool because it's like a neutral. I'm not a huge fan of neutrals, but it looks so good because it has so much depth to it. There's so many different whites, creams, off-whites, ivory, some orangey bits in there. She had like some copper colored bits and that little bit of that stellina shimmer in there. Super, super cute. Okay, so that is that. Then this one, this is a chunky hank that I made. I had actually 2 braids of this fiber, and this is Polworth and silk. And so I wanted to see what it would be like to spin a bobbin or 2 bobbins, right? One each of the same braid color. So it was like the identical fiber in 2 separate braids, and I just spun them one and one, and then I plied it together so that like the orange bits and the pink and the darker plum colors, they're not like matching from one ply to the other, but they're the same throughout. So I thought that that would really, look at that. I mean, it is just, y'all, the spinning, it's like, I don't even care if I end up using the yarn. I think I mentioned this last time. I just like to make it and experiment and see what comes out. Isn't that pretty? So this is all fully hand spun by me, which is wild because I think in my head that I'm spinning pretty thinly, but when they both come together, it equals like a worsted weight. So I'm like, that's not that thin. And I actually have a couple bobbins here of stuff that I've spun. So this was, I think, my second ever bobbin. And you can see that the yarn itself is not that thin. I mean, now that I know it's not that thin. For me, I thought I was like, woohoo, this is lace weight. No, it's definitely not. So you can see that it's pretty thin, but this was maybe my 6th bobbin, and it's significantly thinner and finer, or spun finer, right? So I thought that I would get into spinning and be like, making sock weight yarn or into the thin stuff. But what I found is that I'm really, really having a good time making the funky stuff. It's like there's no set formula. You can practically do whatever you want. Thick, thin, mix a thick with a thin, whatever you want to do. And so I'm having a ton of fun with that. Super, super cool. So those are just a couple of the bobbins that I have left that I need to ply. So see, like two like this, even though they're similar colorways, I would not ply these together. I'm really liking this look where I take the pop of color and apply it to something lighter, a neutral, whether it be a light neutral or a darker one or something like this, super fun. So for me, these two will get applied to other things, right? I don't know what yet, but this is another reason. It's the same as sewing. You got to have a ton of bobbins. So speaking of which, I had bought, these are the plastic ones that you get. I don't remember if I bought them separate from the spinning wheel, or I know it comes with some. I want to say it came with 3, and then I bought others. And then I needed to buy more, but they're not cheap, okay? So what happens is that if you don't know what you're going to ply to yet, the yarn stays on a bobbin. So you can't take it off until it goes to be plied. And then I have yarn on all my bobbins, and I don't have anything else to put new yarn onto. So I had to keep buying some bobbins. So these are the plastic ones, and I want to say these cost me maybe like 30 something dollars, maybe 36 or $40 for this little thing. So I started on some of the online groups that I'm in looking to see what people were using for their bobbins, and it turns out, I'm telling you, there's a business for everything. There's a ton of people 3D printing their own bobbins. And I think these cost me 20 bucks each, maybe $21 or something. So because I needed to buy more, I was like, okay, these are definitely more affordable. Let's go with these. And I want to, okay, I wrote the name down. I bought it from a shop on Etsy called Bobbin Exchange, and they make them in different sizes for different wheels. And so because I have the Shacked Ladybug, I went in there, and looked for what they had in their shop that would fit the Shacked Ladybugs. And I used one. I don't know where the bobbin is. It might still be on my wheel, but they work fine. So I was like, hey, we're going to buy some more because they're definitely more affordable. So I just thought to put that out there because otherwise I wouldn't have known that people are 3D printing bobbins that you can buy. And they make the little ones. I've also bought some on Etsy that are like the jumbo sized one that I use either for the jumbo flyer on my wheel, which I also had bought separate. That's a separate accessory. Or I use it to ply a bunch of yarn like this. This, because it's such a puffy yarn, the one gray, it eats up a lot of space, and so I needed to have that jumbo flyer and the bigger jumbo bobbin in there to ply that. Okay, so that was spinning. Yeah, that was spinning. Awesome. Let me take a sip of water. All right. Oh, Elise is saying much less expensive from the Woolery. I think I got those plastic ones from the Woolery. Maybe. Or maybe I bought my wheel from the Woolery. I can't remember. But I have looked at the Woolery. I have to see which ones, because I know the wood ones are even more expensive than plastic. And then, those 3D printed ones are super cool. So that worked out. All right, let's see if I have any questions here or anything. Yeah, some people are making those bobbins at home. Isn't that super cool? I think so. Next on my list, my new yarn. This may take a while, but I'm going to try to crank through it pretty quickly. Let me put my yarn in here. So yeah, if you're looking for activities and stuff to do online like that and you're already a knitter, I mean, even though Knit Collage says you can sign up for their knit-alongs if you're not a knitter, because they walk you through and they also have step-by-step video lessons. It's super fun. But I feel like all the projects for the fall have some type of color work and were like more involved than I cared to deal with. So that's why I chose the poncho one instead. But they sell kits for all their stuff too and have video lessons for it. All right, so next acquisition that I bought here is this whole yarn collection from Sorella. So if you're not familiar with Sorella, they're probably one of the top names right now for indie dyed yarns. Crocheters and knitters use their yarns. The color palettes are just ridiculous, amazing combos. And this is her Salem collection. This was from last month, so I was saving it to show y'all because I got it in late October, I think. So anyways, this is the Salem collection. You could get it in like different weights, and so I ordered them in the DK weight. It is just 100% superwash merino wool, 231 yards, and 100 grams of DK weight. But look, oh my gosh. This right here, what? Gorgeous. What am I going to do with it? I have no idea. That's how I buy. I buy my yarn like that, and I buy my fabric like that. I like it, I buy it, and then one day we'll figure out a project for it. So, so yeah, if you're looking for indie dyed yarn, something that's really, really great quality and have amazing colors and stuff, check out Sorella. So this is the Salem collection. So I bought all those. What else did we get here? This I got. What is her? Oh, no, this is from Darcy Does It. So this I bought off Instagram from Darcy Does It. She does this thing where I think she just like curates or collaborates with an indie dyer and they put a colorway together and then you can buy it off her site or whatever. So I got this one. This is a colorway called Virgo. It's 100% superwash merino wool. A worsted weight is the one I got. I think this one also, you could pick the different weights. But I went ahead and got 2 skeins of this. I think super cute, super fun. I like that it has blues and purples, but then some black in there. And you can see where the black dye kind of broke a little bit. So I even see some yellows, some reds in there. You can see how this broke. The dye broke right there. And you have some like caramel color and then some fuchsias. But overall, kind of a darky speckled vibe. So that I liked. So I got it. What am I going to do with it? You know the answer. I have no idea. Okay, so that's some of the new yarn. Then the other yarn that I have, oh, Gail's asking, what DK can you use if you're allergic to wool? So when people talk about um, wool, like a wool yarn replacements, you have to be super careful because if you just switch, say, sometimes people are like, oh, I can't do wool, I'm going to switch to cotton. You also need to understand the characteristics of a cotton yarn and how it's going to react in the stitch definition, what the pattern is, or what the use of the garment is. So you can't just go one for one and say, I'm just not going to use wool in a worsted weight. I'm going to use cotton in a worsted weight. It may work, it may not, depending on what the project and the pattern is or what it calls for. Okay, as you can see, I have a large, large ball of yarn. Let's see if we can play it like this. I went by my local yarn shop, the one that's closing. This is probably like my 3rd visit. I went, when did I go? Wednesday. And so I just started picking up some stuff. Now that I have that idea of plying the puffy store-bought yarn with my hand spun, I kind of went with that intention, looking to see, hey, what kinds of yarns could I mix and ply with my own hand spun to create something even more unique, right? And so I picked up some of these. This is a 70% mohair, 25% viscose, and 5% polyester. Honestly, I have no idea how this is going to work, but I feel like I'm not interested in knitting with this as far as holding it together with another strand and then making something with it. But how amazing would this look plied to the chunky stuff? Oh man. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but that's where my head is kind of going. So I got a couple of those in that colorway. I got a couple, or this one, I think I got a couple of these. Yeah. This, oh, let me read you the label in case anybody's interested. This is called Artful Yarns Portrait. That's the yarn. It's Portrait Artful Yarns. This is Sunbeam Paris Mohair. And this is, they're 50-gram balls. And this is 81% mohair, 11% wool, and 8% nylon. So again, just funky stuff with some metallic in there. Oh, I could totally ply this, I think, with some cool stuff, and make some cool. I don't even know. I look at that stuff and I'm like, yeah, why would you even buy that? But it's because I have that spinning thing in my head. Same thing with this. This is Rossetti Polaris, and it's a single ply, cute kind of ombre gradient, but then it also has little bits of sequins in there. Has anybody ever worked with this before? I'm so curious. And the fiber content of this is 65% acrylic, Dralon polyacrylic, and then 31% wool and 4% soft paillette, it says. Isn't that cool? So I got that in a couple colors. Some neutrals and some, look at that. Yeah, if you like to knit or crochet with these thin things, it says it's a size 3. I mean, it feels really fine to me, but I guess it is a DK weight. Yeah, DK weight. But yeah, I can use that, ply stuff with it. I got some solids of these. This Barocco Vintage is like a perfect go-to kind of yarn. I have a cardigan that I had started in that. My son has been cranking out a bunch of hats in this stuff. And I like it because if you're planning to make stuff for gifts, it's a good machine washable yarn. So, if you give a gift that you spent time knitting, not everybody knows that you can't just throw it in the washing machine and then they felt their stuff and wreck the gift. But this is one that you can tell them, hey, you just machine wash it and then hang it up to dry. And this is 52% acrylic, 40% wool, and 8% nylon. And it comes in like a gajillion colors, which is what I bought in a gajillion colors. Look at what I found. They had it in purple. OMG. Oh my gosh, this is like amazing. I could even do something like this and incorporate that in the poncho, right? Let me see. Oh my, okay, yeah, I need to get off. This is wild. See, because I can apply that to that and incorporate that in the poncho. Okay, that would be fabulous. I'm glad I picked up the purple. I knew I would use it one day, something like that. And then I got some Barocco Ultra wool. This is 100% superwash wool, but the same as a worsted weight. Uh, just like your everyday wool yarns. I just got a bunch of other colors of the same stuff that I've already showed you. And then I picked up, did I just get one of these? Yeah. This is Ella Ray Lace Merino. I just loved the color on this and the way that it was dyed. Kind of like a pastel-y rainbow blend. Look at this, how pretty. And it's a lace weight, so there's a ton of yardage on here. So again, Ella Ray Lace Merino. It's 100 grams, so 460 yards because it's so fine. And it's 100% extra fine merino made in Italy. Oh, it's super springy too. Love that. I don't know what I'll use it for, as usual, but it's really, really pretty. And I feel like these colors can go with anything. Okay, so I'm looking through here. I just have the same, a bunch of Barocco vintage in different colors. That's stuff for the kids. They can work on any old project with that, make hats and do stuff like that. Or they're also good, like any of these colors, this color here, these light aqua blues, this color, these are great for tutorials because they show up great on camera. I know because I've even, I've been doing tutorials for a long time on my channel, but also when I was a guest instructor on Knit and Crochet Live, we always worked with colors like that so that you can show the actual stitch, where you're inserting the crochet hook or the knitting needle and all that stuff. Oh, and I didn't mention this one. This is by Wisdom Yarns. It's called Poems Chunky. It's 100% wool, and this, again, is a single ply. This one I saw because, one, the funky colors that I love, and I absolutely plan to ply this to a more neutral color, colored single ply, and then I'll make a two ply that's light on one and funky with the other one, just like I did on some of that other hand spun. And this is a 100-gram ball. Yep, and it just says 100% wool. This is made in Turkey. And then the other one that I have here is, I actually just got this in the mail today. It's by Lola Bean Yarns. It's their black label. And this color, I just saw it, and look how pretty that is. The reds and oranges popping up in there. And this is a superwash merino, cashmere, and nylon. So it's an MCN blend. So merino, cashmere, and nylon. Sport weight is what I got. So 100 grams, and there's 400 yards on here. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, as usual, but I got that today in the mail. Okay, so let's see. Oh, Monique says she loves the gradient in the Ella Ray. I know that. It's like a light pastel-y rainbow color. I love that. All right, so next up, I wanted to talk about Vogue Knitting Live. I have been taking classes online with Vogue Knitting Live. I've never gone in person. I think last year they started doing it online since everybody stayed home and they canceled the in-person event in New York. But I just wanted to mention it in case people don't know about it. Every month, I think since March, I've been almost every month. I think I skipped a month or two. But I wait, I get the emails. You can find the information by going to vogueknittinglive.com. And the next Vogue Knitting Live, they do it now every month. So the next one is next weekend. So I think there's still time to sign up. I don't know if all the classes are sold out or what, but I signed up for 2 more. What they are, I don't remember, but I know there's Shayna Billow classes. I love her. She's an amazing teacher and designer, and whenever I see one of her classes, I just sign up for it. So last month in October, I took a class with her, and then I took another class with Jillian. Yeah, I want to make sure it wasn't Lillian. It's Jillian Moreno, which I'll show you her book in a minute. But it was a class on picking up stitches along the edges. And so like for necklines or armholes, if you're, having to pick up stitches to then knit the sleeves. And so the classes are like that. They're like 2 hours or 3 hours. I've never taken the longer classes. I don't do the lecture ones. I like the in-person. They're all via Zoom. And then you just get on. Sometimes you have a little PDF that you have to print out or a little homework that you need to whip up, and then you do something in the class. So it's like a fun way to learn new little skills and techniques and try things out. And so I just had this one here is just one of the ones that we worked on to pick up stitches in that one class. So that was that. And again, the website is vogueknittinglive.com. You can check it out if you're interested. I don't find that there's I mean, they are some classes for beginners, but a lot of the stuff is like super advanced. So I'm always looking for the ones kind of in between where I can learn a random new skill or technique. I've done mosaic knitting. I've learned, continental knitting tips where instead of throwing the yarn American or English style, you tension the yarn in your left hand. So like little classes like that for different little things that will help. Okay. Um, Any cool or new tools? And no, Shanika, not for knitting and crochet yet. Just those cool 3D printed bobbins that I showed earlier is what I have for that. But let me go over. I just wanted to share a couple of books. Each one, every time I do these Fiber Fridays, I want to try and share like some type of a book resource. And these are ones that I have been checking out most recently. This one is by Melissa Leapman, and it's called The Indispensable Stitch Collection for Crocheters. There's 200 stitch patterns in words and symbols. I have a lot of crochet dictionaries, but I like this one. It's so simplified. You have the image, you can see how the stitch works up. They're pretty much always done in like a worsted weight, so you can kind of see what the stitch definition looks like. You have the explanation in text, and then they also have the charts. So whenever I'm designing and working with my tech editors and stuff to see like, hey, this would look cool, this design and this one would look good, or let's try this stitch, it's like a quick and easy way for me to mark it, look at it, and then tell, my tech editors like, hey, we want to build this in, what's the repeat and all that, and then we can get into designing. But I just thought I would share that one because crochet, so a lot of the crochet dictionaries that I have, crochet stitch dictionaries, are like older books. And this one I felt like was a little revamped. Like some of the stitches feel a little bit more fresh, like I would use in some new modern designs and stuff like that. So that was one for crocheters. The other book is this one. It was highly recommended by a bunch of my spinning friends, and I bought it. And when I started to read it, then I realized that Jillian Moreno, the author of this book, was teaching a class in Vogue Knitting Live. So then, of course, I signed up for her class last month in October. So we were doing some cool stuff on there, trying different techniques, long draw, and all this kind of stuff, spinning. So it was cool because like you sit in your class, get your fiber braid out, and take off your shoes and start spinning while she was showing us different things to try. So that was fun. But this book is so amazing, and you can see that for the yarns where I'm applying like a neutral with some funky color, a different pop of something in there, or even this one that Allie helped me make, I'm highly inspired by these types of hand spun. You see how that is, like that marled look? I love, love, love that vibe. Whether it's two colors that are similar or one just pops against the other. There she is. Hi, Jillian. So yeah, super cool book, tons of information. Here on like finishing the fibers, you can tell how detailed it is. It talks about like unfinished, meaning you just spun it and you haven't done anything else to it. If you steam the fiber, this is the difference. If you whip it around using like centrifugal force and you just whip, whip, whip around like with the lasso, and then this one is whacked, where people sometimes will stretch it out after they dunk it in water, to block it out or whatever, and they will hit it on a table or a surface and whack it or thwack it or whatever you want to call it. And so they have the images here to show you what the difference is so that you can decide this one has been soaked, this is snapped, this is fulled, which is like a little bit felted, and menaced. I have no idea what this is. I haven't read that one yet. But it's just showing you all the different things, different ways to spin your fiber from a braid, if it's a gradient, if it's striped, whatever it is, to get the yarn that you want. I love this. Love, love, love. It's just different shades of yellows, greens, and blues, and they've been applied together. Looks amazing. So super good books. Highly recommend if you're a spinner, Yarn and Texture by Jillian Moreno. And if you crochet or you want to get into crochet design type stuff, Melissa Leapman's book. Okay? So that is that. Let's see. Oh, Kathleen. Okay, let me let me pop in here because we have some questions. You can go ahead and put my face up since I don't have any other yarny stuff to show y'all here, at least. Okay, so Becky B is asking, Americans knit differently than Brits? For the most part, right? You can knit however you want to, but for the most part, American and English style, they call it, going this way, but then a lot of other Europeans will knit continental style. But I know people that do both. So it just depends on, I think, mostly how you were taught, right? If a continental knitter taught you, that's probably what you're going to go towards. Now, I have found that a lot of people will tell you if you crocheted first and then learn to knit, that you will probably like continental. I absolutely disagree with that because They say that because in crochet, you know, we tension the yarn in our left hand. And so you're going in with your hook and grabbing the yarn, like all your different, you know, through a stitch and yarn over and come back out. Although that's the same movement of continental, it's totally different because there is no hook on the end of that knitting needle. So you still have to reteach yourself how to scoop and bring the yarn through with no hook on the end. So I found when I was learning how to knit that it was easier to actually throw or go American style, you know, where I tensioned the yarn with my right hand and then just scooped it around the needle to go in and out and take my stitches, okay? So don't feel like it's you if you're one of those people that you started crocheting and then wanted to learn to knit and the knitters are like, hold it like this, and it just doesn't click for you because it's totally different. I feel like a lot of people think you're just gonna go in there and grab it just like you do in crochet. No, it's not like you do in crochet because there's no hook to grab the yarn with. So you have to like scoop it with a pointed tip. It's not as simple as the crochet hook, okay? Um, Kathleen is asking, hey Vanessa, have you tried the square knitting needles? I really, really want to try them. So I have, and my son is actually knitting a hat right now with square knitting needles. They are, but they're not like the super expensive ones. They're, I think they're knit picks, and they're a wooden, some type of wood, and they're squared off. But he liked them. They were like a darker blue. He didn't like them when he was using the dark blue square needles with navy yarn. He was like, remind me never again to use a dark yarn with dark needles. It was like, you only got to do that once to learn, and you learned really early. Good for you. So yeah, I have used them. They don't feel off. I used to think that they might feel weird or whatever. They feel fine. I feel, you know, some people say they're like more ergonomic with the way that you can place your fingers on them. I mean, I don't see like a big difference. I can, you know, knit with whatever, metal, wood, or anything like that. The only thing is I tend to be more on the tight side, like a tighter knitter, not super tight, like when you're first beginning that you're like, and you can barely get the needles in, in the yarn like I used to be. But I tend to knit tighter anyway, so I like metal needles because the stitches just fly off. But when you're a beginner, you don't want to start off with those super slick metal needles because your stitches will be flying off and you'll be dropping stitches left and right. So it's a matter of like starting with something grabby like a wood, a bamboo, or birch or something, and then when you feel like it's getting hung up or maybe that the needles themselves are holding you back from knitting faster than you would like, then I would scoot up to metal. Or if your stitches are super tight, like you're just like, why is this so tight? You may consider either, you know, going up in a needle if it doesn't affect gauge, like say it's just something with a plain size like a shawl or something, or you can go to the metal needles because that way they are so slick that the yarn kind of just floats off of it. Okay. Candy's asking, she says, Vanessa, I prefer knitting more than crochet, but I'm interested in Tunisian crochet. Do you have experience with that method? I don't. I've read up on it. I've watched some videos. Right now, I'm just not interested in it. I don't know. The fabric for me, I'm not a huge fan. Like, I don't want fabric, from what I've seen at least, that it's like a little bit more dense. That's kind of why I've transitioned more to knitting too, because I feel like I can make the fabric look so, so drapey, which you can with crochet too, but it just looks so good. The stitch definition is just like, anyways, that's how I feel about that. All right. Oh, Eunice says she loves the square needles. She says they're great, that she uses them all the time. Great. Becky says, maybe that's why I struggle. I did learn to crochet first. Yeah, so one thing to keep in mind, I have a couple of beginner knitting video tutorials on my YouTube channel. If you just do a YouTube search for Crafty Gemini knitting, they'll all pop up for you. I have arm knitting, I have beginner knitting, I have a knitted washcloth. And so I go through and then I have videos that show you like how to do the knit stitch and how to do a purl stitch. And I teach you both ways, right? American style and continental. So if I were you, I would watch that, Becky, and see if one of them clicks or vibes with you a little bit better than the other. And then you can be like, okay, I think I might be able to knit this way, you know, and then try that. But it's important to, I think, try both to see what you do better with. Like when I see my son knit, I'm like, how in the world are your stitches that even? Because he literally lets go of the yarn. I'm like, how is your tension so perfect? You're not even holding it. There's no tension. So, and I'll probably have him on after he makes my hat. We'll get him to come on a Fiber Friday and hear from him, a 12-year-old boy, what his experience is with knitting, you know, knitting the hat, what were maybe some of the struggles that he had when he first started, because he started knitting when he was 9. But he knit a hat back then, just on chunky yarn, still on circulars, and then that's all he likes to do is knit hats, the same type of hat. And here we are 3 years later, and his tension, I mean, every time I post pictures, people are like, how are his stitches so even? And when I watch him knit, I'm like, I don't even know. He goes like this, he lets it go, literally, and finishes the stitch. I'm like, wow. Um, okay. Let's see. Kathleen says, I struggle with the grip on the left hand. I mean, struggle with round needles, but those squares are very costly to try them. Well, you might want to check out those Knit Picks ones. I can't remember the actual name of them, but they are square ones. They're like little wooden square ones. So just do a little research and see if you can find more affordable ones. And then an affordable way to try out a new type of needle or a new brand of needle before you jump in and buy like all the sizes is to just buy one size and a fixed needle, right? And that's what I did at the beginning. I ended up with different sizes, different brands, and then the ones that I really loved that I found myself going to again and again, I just ended up buying the whole interchangeable set, which for me was the Chagu needles. I have the interchangeable sets, all of them, size 0 to like 15, and the short ones, the short tips for hats and stuff like that, small circumferences. And I bought extra cords for them too, because you know you're gonna have different cords to make different lengths and all that stuff. But those ended up being the ones for me. Okay. Eunice says, I knit like juice and my tension is fine. That is hilarious, Eunice, that you also let go of the yarn completely and then finish your stitches. I can't even watch it. I'm like, and they're perfect. But I think it boils down to, right, the consistency. If you do the same thing every time, your stitches are going to be consistent no matter how you do it. And I find sometimes people that are self-taught, they kind of tried it and figured it out, or like say they were taught one way, it didn't work out, and they just kept at it, and then you end up like doing your own thing with your fingers, right? So if somebody else sees you, and I've done that before where I've been in on a class and the teacher's like, how are you knitting? It's like, let me show you again. And they're like, whoa, yeah, no, I couldn't do that. You know, and everybody ends up developing their own method. So don't give up, whether it's crochet or knitting, you can do it. All right. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Rita. She says, I'm so glad you decided to do a Fiber Friday. Yeah, so we're starting off just one Friday a month. So the first Friday of every month, you can catch me here on the Crafty Gemini YouTube channel and the Facebook page at 7 p.m. Eastern to talk yarny goodness, okay? All right, let's see. Oh, you see, everybody likes different things. So actually, let's go ahead and do right now. We're going to pull for giveaways. We will email you. Well, you'll have to email us because we're going to pull one from the Facebook and then one from YouTube. After I ask this question, I'd like for y'all to include your answer in the chat. And we're going to go ahead and I'll have my helper over here pick a random winner from each place. So answer the following question to be entered in tonight's giveaway. What is your favorite type, like your favorite brand of needles if you knit, or hooks if you crochet? Go ahead and answer that in the comments below. We'll give it maybe like a minute or so, and then I will have him scroll through there and pick out a random winner, and then we will tell you who you are. Then you'll email us with your mailing address and just say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I won tonight's giveaway, and we'll mail you out a little package of yarny goodies, because I definitely have a lot here. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's see some of these brands that are coming in here. Knit Picks, Chagu Interchangeables. Holly, I'm with you, girl. Hiya Sharps, girl. Brenda. Let me tell you a quick story about these Hiya Sharps. When I first started knitting, I decided I wanted to work with sock yarn, but I did not want to make socks. When I looked at that yarn coming from like bulky crochet projects, I was like, this is like knitting with thread. It looked just so thin to me that I looked for a pattern that called for larger needles, but the thinner yarn, because I thought, okay, trick your brain into thinking, hey, it's not going to take that long to make this project since you're using size 6 needles with this super thin fingering weight. Well, I didn't have the needles that I needed for the shawl. I went to my local yarn shop. I got Hiya Sharps. Hiya Sharps literally busted a hole in my finger because they're that sharp. I knit in a way that like when I slip off the stitch after I've worked it, I hold on to the needle end. I don't know. Like I didn't even realize I was doing this until I was like, wow, this hurts. And when I looked at my finger, there was a proper hole. Like it was bleeding and everything. I was like, yeah, these are a little too sharp for me. So that's why I settled on the Chagu ones, because they weren't that sharp, but they're still slick at the tip. But man, those Hiya Sharps. I see Miss Rose says she uses Hiya Sharps. My hat off to y'all. Whoo, I cannot do it. Too sharp. Brenda says they are very sharp. All right. Anne says for knitting, she likes her Chagu circulars for sure. Cheryl says she likes her Clover adjustable bamboos. Nice. Clover Amore, those are hooks that Janet is saying she likes. Bernadine says, whatever works. Okay, I heard that, Miss Bernadine. She says, whatever size I need to use to get the project done. I'm there. Addie, a bunch of you are saying Addie, Boyd, and Addie's. Let's see. Clover also nitpicks. So you see, I mean, first of all, there's so many different brands of so many different things out there that you can use to, your crochet hooks, your Tunisian crochet hooks, your knitting needles and stuff. So I'm glad to see, sometimes people are like, well, what's the best? The best is what works best for you, right? And you do have to try it. So it can seem a little wasteful at first because it's like, well, I didn't like these. And what I don't like that sometimes I find happens with beginner students is that, like, say you try one style, then you think you don't like the whole craft, right? You start off with plastic crochet hooks, let's say, and you're like, oh, I don't like crochet. But it might be just the hooks that you're using, right? You may try a better, higher quality one and be like, oh, this isn't bad. I like this. So don't just quit after the first bump in the road, okay? Try to keep at it, and you may find, over time, and of course, spending a little money, you can't get away from that, the ones that will work best for you. Okay, so let's go ahead. If you want to scroll through, you want to call out a name from Facebook. I'll write these names down so we know. So we'll do a Facebook winner. Okay, my man wrote them down for me. Thank you, sir. You want to show your face? Let's see if I can understand your chicken scratch. Ooh, Facebook. Oh, Miss Rose. And how do you didn't write her whole name. Is it Penchet? I can't remember. Panchenko? I feel like there was a Z in there somewhere. Okay. Well, Miss Rose, you know who you are. I believe you're in my bag club too because I've seen your name. So, Miss Rose, go ahead. What is it? Yeah. So, Miss Rose is the Facebook winner. Go ahead and send us an email at bea@craftygemini.com and be like, hey, I'm Miss Rose. I won the giveaway tonight. So we can send you out some yarny goodies. And if you want, those of you that are getting your names called for these prizes, just let us know. Do you crochet or do you knit? Because that way we can also include maybe some hooks, maybe some stitch markers, maybe some needles. Who knows? I have a lot of stuff. So, Miss Rose from Facebook, and the YouTube chat winner is Miss Monique Robinson. Congratulations, ladies. Go ahead and send us an email at bea@craftygemini.com. I know both of you know where that is. You have that email saved. Email us. Let us know if you crochet or knit or both or Tunisian. Whatever you do, just give us a little snippet there. That way we can help kind of grab your prizes. And then, of course, your mailing address so that we can get those out to you. Okay? Awesome. So yes, congratulations, ladies. I hope you like your goodies. And that's it for me today. We talked about my new hat pattern. We're going to do a knit along for that. So if you do want to be in touch and maybe participate on that, get yourself a kit, the video courses and all, make sure you're on our email list for the yarn or for the fiber crafts email list. I talked about my spinning, showed you some new yarn that I got, Vogue Knitting Live, the classes and stuff, a couple of books. And I think that's going to be all for tonight. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in for the second episode of Fiber Friday. And if you like this, let us know so that we can make sure to keep it going, keep it coming along, and sharing more fiber goodness with you all on the first Friday of every month at 7 p.m. Eastern. Remember, you can find me both Crafty Gemini Facebook and the Crafty Gemini YouTube page. All right. Y'all have a great weekend, and I will see y'all next week if you're going to tune in to Whip Wednesday for my sewing and quilting stuff. All right.